Harrison Price. It's Thursday, November 14th, 2024. We are coming to you from the Nation Network studio, built by Arbor Lee, here at the historic, iconic Wall Center, downtown Vancouver, where, if you have your ticket to the big game, why not make it a full experience? Stay downtown at the Wall. Ask for the Harrison Price rate. Call 604-331-1000. Some blackout dates apply based on availability.
There's a reason why so many people that are going to the Grey Cup are staying at the Wall Center. It just is so convenient.
Yeah, there's a lot of Grey Cup presence or guests here at the Wall Center. Matt Sekeres alongside Blake Price, four-time Juno Award winner Mike Rogerson, hitting switches, conducting things. We will start with our Surrey Mitsubishi poll question, a Blake Price special. Do you feel bad for Bo Horvat? Yes or no? You can vote at the Sekeres Price X and YouTube accounts.
I don't feel bad for him. And it's not necessarily for he's got millions of dollars in the bank reason, but you can put that on the list, certainly. It's more that, like if he had signed a 3-year deal with the Islanders, I certainly wouldn't have felt bad. But he's the one that shows that. I mean, you've got some agency when you are a UFA. Well, you've got more than some agency. You've got a whole agency.
You have all the agency.
So
you have all the leverage too, usually.
Yeah. So he was in a good spot. He could have moved on. He could have signed a bridge, not a bridge deal. You don't use those terms for a guy in his late 20s, but you could have signed a penultimate contract to one's career, and then tried to sign another one.
Or it could have just said, "I'm not re-signing here, trading."
That's what I mean. Yeah. He had all that at his fingertips. He did not have to be a New York Islander for life. He's the one that's chosen that.
Yeah.
So don't feel bad.
And 20-some% are voting yes right now. And I understand it from the standpoint of he was such a good organizational soldier here. Not a foot wrong, not a word wrong.
In rough times.
Yeah. In brutal times.
Yeah.
When he was surrounded by dysfunction, it was a calamitous organization for the most part. Poor ownership, poor management, poor coaching, poor teammates. And Bo was always there to put a positive spin on things.
And face the music.
And take on all. Think of the questions that this guy answered over his career.
Well, I actually make
about COVID outbreaks and Virtanen's behavior outside the rink and all the bullshit that encircled this franchise for years.
He and Linden both had the same effect in that if they didn't speak after a game, that was a story. It was two or three times in each of their careers where they had just reached the boiling point, and usually if they were injured, they were given a pass. But there was a couple of times where both of them just said, not today. And it was literally 2 to 3.
Nobody would have blamed either of them if they said, you know what, how about somebody else have a go at this today?
Yeah.
I'm Stan Smeal back in the day, for those who covered him. Night after night, sitting in that damn locker after a loss, waiting to take on the questions. So I do feel bad for him in that respect, in that he's not here to see the greener pastures, and he's with a very mediocre franchise. But as you say, he decided to stay with that mediocre franchise. That's his own agency. I voted no, but I would be cheering for Bo Horvat if somewhere down the line he was on a better team making a Stanley Cup playoff.
For sure.
I would like to see him at some point in his career, and he has been to the playoffs with the Islanders a couple times, but really as a hope bet lower seed. I would like to see him at some point get some measure of team success before he calls it a career. Incidentally, he turns 30 in April. If you want to feel old, baby Bo is 30 in April.
The good news for him and the Islanders, Brock Nelson and Kyle Palmieri come off the payroll at the end of the year. That is $11 million.
And Nelson may fetch a pretty good return if they trade him here. Now, Lou re-signs a lot of his guys.
Those guys are 33 right now.
Yeah. Nelson may return quite a haul for them, depending on how he's going. The other thing I think with Horvat and the affection that some feel in this market for him. Now, look, there's a segment of Canuck Nation that holds the, better than Vancouver, I'll tell you that for free comment against him.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually, a similar sentiment for those who hold the Ryan Kesler trade request against him, or who held I hate Canada comment from Kesler against him, or who held Bure holdout against him, if you want to go way far back enough. So I understand that segment is out there, but I think there is also a good number of Vancouver Canucks fans that feel affection to Bo, not just for everything that we talked about, but you felt like you got to know the guy. Like we felt like we knew Tim and Holly. Right? His dad and his wife. We felt like, they were part of the family. To
a lot of people, we knew Tim too well.
Yeah.
There was that sentiment.
Yeah, I mean, like, Tim was there every step of the way with the career. Holly was there from an early age, and so we sort of watched him grow up.
Mm-hmm.
In some respects.
No, he's a great guy.
And that's the other thing. I think, while you may have criticisms about him as a player and as a dressing room leader, and quite frankly, some of those criticisms are fair, while you may think that the Canucks made the right call in re-signing JT Miller, not Bo Horvat, and that absolutely looks the case in the here and now, it was hard to have a contrary word about Bo Horvat, the person.
Yeah.
And frankly, I think that's probably, that probably pleases Tim more than the hockey part, right?
And here's the irony. If it really did boil down to a Horvat versus Miller conundrum for the Vancouver Canucks, mm-hmm. one of the key things that people would have said in Horvat's corner was leadership and temperament. And look what's happened to JT Miller. And I think they were valid criticisms of Miller back then. And now Miller has rounded out himself as a player to include temperament and leadership. And who knows, maybe subconsciously some of Bo Horvat rubbed off on JT Miller. I don't think they'd admit that, but maybe it did. Who knows?
Last chance to take advantage of specials on 2024 models at Surrey Mitsubishi, where right now you trade in any vehicle for a new 2024, and they're going to give you $3,000 above market value for your trade. You can take advantage of rates as low as 1.9%. Get the extended warranty on the 2024 PHEV. That's what Blake and I are driving these days. That's a no charge plus $1,000 credit towards winter tires. And you're going to need those winter tires if you're going exploring British Columbia here in the upcoming weeks and months. This is all happening at Surrey Mitsubishi while inventory lasts. They're running out of these 2024 models. Check them out, 13820 104th Avenue in Surrey, or online at surreymitsubishi.ca.
My favorite thing is when you get into like the final eighth of your gas tank, seeing how long you can stay in the final eighth, because I just recharge every night, and I just gleefully put off, because I hate stopping to fill up, and I can go for like a week with like 2 blocks on the digital thing. It's awesome.
I have filled up once in the 5 weeks that I've been driving this vehicle.
Pretty glorious, yeah.
Top story today brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. Well, return of the old captain and return of Dakota Joshua.
Mm-hmm.
We're nearly 2 years on from the Bo Horvat trade, and fair to say the Canucks have no regrets. Does Bo in re-signing with the Islanders? And Joshua, a return from cancer. Not just a return from injury, but a return from testicular cancer. He'll make his season debut tonight. He winds up missing 14 games. He missed 19 last year, you may remember, with the broken hand after the fight. Still managed 18 goals and 32 points. He will skate on a fourth line. They're easing him in. He will skate on a fourth line with Aatu Ratu, one of the Bo Horvat trade pieces, and Nils Hoglander. More on Hoglander here in a bit. But let's tackle the trade here, Blake, and then we'll get into Dakota. Filip Hronek, who of course was acquired with in large part, with the first-round pick the Islanders sent to the Canucks in the Horvat trade. Ratu was a part of the trade, prospect who moved over. So Hronek and Ratu for Bo Horvat. There are some other little pieces around there because, of course, you can do the Beauvillier trade tree, and there was another draft pick involved.
Yeah, but some hope bets.
Other draft picks involved in the Filip Hronek deal. But, yeah, needless to say, Hronek was the missing ingredient. We talked about about it last year, that you can talk about Hughes taking the next step to a Norris Trophy level season, and that was absolutely part of it. You can talk about Thatcher Demko taking the step up to becoming a Vezina Trophy finalist. You can talk about JT Miller's temperament and full 200-foot game and the changes that we saw there. And you can also talk about Coach Talkin, the amazing job he did. But if you want to pinpoint the missing link that got this team turned around, the catalyst, it was acquiring a legitimate top pair right shot defenseman in Filip Hronek.
Gave them a top pair, not just a number one in Quinn Hughes, but a full-on top pair.
You could argue it allowed Hughes to take the next step up to Norris Trophy winner.
Well, and it's funny, over the course of the last year, there's been a bit of an ebb and flow here, in that if you'd asked us, on December the 10th, how the trade had, panned out for the Vancouver Canucks, I think a lot of people would have said the Canucks win the trade because Hronek is shooting the lights out. He's a point-per-game defenseman on the right side, blah, 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 blah. Well, we've come to realize that was overachieving for Filip Hronek. That is not who Filip Hronek is. He was just on a 2-month heater. He's less than that. So he's come back to the pack a little bit, not to a point where he's a detriment, obviously, but it's more modest offensive totals now. But whereas Aatu Ratu seemed like a kind of a hope bet scratch and win ticket on December 10th of last year.
That's it.
He's now in the lineup and showing promise at restoring prospect status in the organization and league-wide. So
I think he's restored it. Yeah. I think he's full on back to being a prospect here.
Yeah, so it's changed, but I still think it's a Canuck win. But it is funny how it's just changed 10 months later here, 11 months later.
If you can get a fourth-line center, but a fourth-line center with some upside, and a top-pair right-shot defenseman for a second-line center, just on profiles alone, that's a good trade for you in the NHL. Yeah, that second-line center is a difficult commodity to get, but we've said it countless times. That top pair, right shot, all situations defenseman, that's the most difficult commodity to find in the National Hockey League. That's where you have the greatest scarcity. And if you're signing, first of all, those players almost never get to unrestricted free agency. So you either have to draft them or you have to trade for them. And usually when you trade for them, it's a sun, moon, and stars sort of return. I'm interested to see Rasmus Andersson, who's leading the Flames in scoring, or at least was earlier in the week. If Calgary puts him on the market, what they're going to be able to fetch in return. Because I think you could get 3 significant pieces for that player. And we should mention the Canucks gave up 2 good assets for Filip Hronek. It was a first-round pick and a second-round pick. They got a fourth-round pick back, so they basically slid down 2 rounds in the draft. But there is a distinction between a second-rounder and a fourth-rounder. And we all said at the time, like, whoa, what's going on here? This looks like a betting trade to some degree. Rushing the fences. No. Alvin and Rutherford at that point had watched right-shot defensemen get traded around the league, missed out on them, did not draft a right-shot defenseman high with their first-round pick. Of course, that's Jonathan Lekkerimäki. More on him in a moment. And Of course. How many times are you going to sit there and just let top pair or top 4 right shot defensemen come and go before you have to make? You had to make the move. You had to make a bet at some point. They made their bet. They made their bet with Filip Hronek, and I think it's been a winning bet.
Red Wings fans, I know, have wondered the method to the madness for Yzerman because people like Jake Wallman, Daniel Sprong, and Filip Hronek and wondered why Yzerman was willing to get rid of all 3 of them. In the end, he's probably right on Wallman and Sprong, but he may have calculated poorly on whether or not he could use the money more wisely with Filip Hronek. He may come to regret that one. Don't forget to join the gang at the District Wine Village in Oliver for the Village Light Up. Enjoy free skating, craft vendors, and refreshing tastings from the Yellow Dog Spirits folks, Foolish Wine, and the Neighborhood Outpost. Go check it out at the District Wine Village in Oliver.
Dakota Joshua. We mentioned his season debut. Needless to say, he's excited. Let's hear from him.
Yeah. It's been a long time coming, and it'll be fun. It's just nice to be back in the room with the guys and get back to work.
So it's so funny they go to such reflexive answers. He's been in the room with the guys for a long time.
For a while.
They took him on the road, too.
So they're talking about easing him in tonight. What do you think that's about? Because...
Well, I mean, I think, cancer is a little scarier than your average injury.
And you think it's just getting back in a comfort level thing?
I think it's, Well, and let's hear from him again here because needless to say, when you have a diagnosis like that and you can get back to normal, and when your normal is being a professional athlete, needless to say, I'm sure that flashes before you when you get the diagnosis. He's awfully grateful for this day to come.
Yeah, for sure. That was, scary time, but I'm very thankful and, just happy to be in this position still and be able to go out there and play.
And so I wonder if he looks good. Like, if it's just the comfort level, and right now they've got the perfect card to play here. They don't have to play him a lot because they can just say, we're going to ease him back in. But if he looks great, is there anything preventing them from moving him up the lineup and giving him more time in the next 2 games?
No. Only the performance of other wingers, if they're great.
Yeah, you're right. If there's nowhere to move him necessarily.
Exactly. If Lekkerimäki scores 2 goals tonight, you're not going to play there.
No.
I mean, we sung Suter's praises yesterday. I'm not sure how much leash he has, though.
My greater point is that they're protecting Dakota Joshua, I think, and saying we're going to ease him in. But I think just what we know about his personality and stuff like that, I think he's going to do okay. Yeah. I think he's going to jump back to it pretty well.
Well, the one thing that has struck me here about Dakota and this story, he has always seemed a pretty affable, upbeat fellow to begin with. Like, the vibes are always good with him. But you listen to those 2 clips. You listen to the media session he did, a week ago Friday, whenever it was, basically the first time that he had talked all year. Even go back to the statement that he released on the eve of training camp and just how verbose. I mean, he sounds, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but he sounds like a guy that just has a joy and zest for life. Like, he sounds like a guy who understands, how bad this could have been, testicular cancer, and is just over the moon that it was treatable as quickly as it was, and that here we are, 2.5 months later, with him returning to play. It's a terrific story, even outside of any kind of goals, pucks, sticks, assists, all that. It's just a great story there.
And they took their time with him. Like, he's been practicing with them now for a while. So while in a lot of cases, if you're coming back from an injury, it might not be that long, and you really need to warm a guy up, I think he's going to be pretty good. I think his cardio and all that, I think it's going to be better than people think.
Good deal. Let's hear from Tocchet on Dakota Joshua's return.
It's like making a major trade. He's a big kid that's got great hands. Obviously, he's played really well for this organization, especially last year. So we're really excited to have him back. He's gone through a lot of stuff, and I've loved the way he's dealt with it, and we're just happy for him.
I know you're excited to get his skill back out on the ice, but what does it add to the dressing room as well?
Well, he's a well-liked kid. He's turned into a leader too. He's got a big voice. So it's like I said, it's a major thing for us right now.
He's got snarl when you need it. He doesn't play with he doesn't play 100% with snarl. It's not evident on every shift. But have you felt the Canucks have been lacking snarl or physicality so far? It hasn't been a missing ingredient too much, but
you'll have to refresh me. But the Calgary opener with Miller, Mantha, and Rooney.
Yeah.
There's another game in there somewhere. Have they had a lot of chippy? Was it the Florida game?
No, that's what I'm saying. There hasn't been a lot of games where we've exited going, where's the pushback and all that? We haven't had to do that.
No.
So it's good to have it, but I just say I don't think we've missed it on the ice.
So a little bit of that after Jeannot hit Besser?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
That game got a little bit chippy. It did.
Okay.
Yeah. But
no,
two fingers. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you don't see as many of those games.
Well, not in October. That's not an October thing.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, where are we? Oh, Lekkerimäki. So he's got his NHL debut under his belt. He's playing with JT Miller again. And he's going to play the bumper spot on the first power play. And if you're sitting there going, wow, that's pretty heady stuff for a kid who's played 13 AHL games and one NHL game. Going back to what Talkin said the other day, shoot or shoot. Told him shoot. That's the best part of your game. And that's, of course, where you want your shooter on the number one power play. And incidentally, Ratu and Lekkerimäki recalled Archie Baines was not today as they continue the cap gymnastics of cap space accrual.
And with Joshua back, that's where that goes.
That's exactly Joshua there for Baines. So let's hear from Coach Tocchet about why Lekkerimäki in the bumper.
Well, I think when you have a guy that talented like Besser, the PK. I mean, you got to. I don't. Others probably don't know much about him, but he's a guy that you give him just a second with a puck, it can be in the net. And when you have those bumpered like Horvat, he's another one of those guys. Especially when he was here, they're tough to defend because they just need a second, and it's off their stick in the net. So. Johnny's trending that way with his talent.
Quick shot as well.
Release.
So, that does bode well. Now, with the right-handed trigger, it's more likely to come off of that right circle rather than what we saw with the Bo Horvat setup coming off the left circle. So it'll be flipped a little bit, most likely, to get the true benefit of the bumper shot. But we saw him late in the game versus Calgary being that player, but also being able to slide up into the top of the slot at times as well. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Something tells me he's going to get a goal here sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I get that feeling too. I like the look of it in game number one. Now let's hope that he can follow up the exuberance of game number one. Exuberance might go down a touch, but maybe the calmness will allow him to actually be better.
I'm going elsewhere for my Bet365 bet of the day, but if you did want Lekkerimäki as an anytime goal scorer, it's plus 375. That's pretty good value here. Playing in the first power play bumper spot and playing on JT Miller's wing. So
yeah, they're setting him up for success, and that is great to see.
Kevin Lankinen against Semyon Varlamov in goal. And, he's done it. I shouldn't say he's done it because Shelov's got the mop-up work against Edmonton. But we were wondering at the start of the month, after Shelov's had that stinker, can you just play Lankinen each and every game, start Lankinen each and every game until you get to the back-to-back with Chicago and with Nashville? And it's pretty clear. It is a starting goalie situation for Lankinen until Demko comes back. And I'm not sure what his pace is, but I would suspect he's a 60-plus start pace guy right now, given how infrequently he has been willing to start Archer's
I hope
Shields.
he's getting a lot of 2-hour naps in to regenerate here because, obviously on the weekend in particular, he looked a little bit fatigued, but it was a great bounce-back game, and he looked pretty solid versus Calgary. With a diminished and injured Islanders team with no Matthew Barzal to take you from left to right quickly or right to left quickly, that helps as well. And no Duclair as well. So 2 speed demons out of the lineup for the Islanders. That's helpful for a goalie to prevent them from needing that those big bursts going post to post.
I'm going to point forward here, and I didn't run this by you earlier.
I can handle it.
I know. He's great on his feet. This one, fantastic on his feet. Some days he doesn't care to know it's on the show. Just right off the dome.
Going fresh.
Right off the dome.
Like to
going fresh. Send him a lineup every day, never looks at it. Anyways. Chicago Saturday, Nashville Sunday, both games at Rogers Arena. Mm-hmm. Both of Kevin Lankinen's former teams. We can agree that Shilovs is getting one of these starts, right?
I mean, you have to. You have to.
Yeah, I think so. Which one does he get and why? He's not so quick on his feet on this one. Huh?
No.
He's had to marinate on this one.
I think you're going to use all the time that you have, Lou Lamoriello rule, see what the last game looked like for both of these teams, for Chicago and Nashville, and have that inform you a little bit.
Not to mention see what tonight looks like for Lankinen.
Right. Because if he looks really good, I think you keep the momentum going, perhaps, and play him against Chicago.
But let me ask you this: is the momentum not still going Sunday, or because his teammates have played a game that breaks the momentum?
Yeah.
The other thing that I ask, and you know this is a pet peeve of mine, Blake, but the whole notion of your starter has to play the Saturday hockey night in Canada game.
Oh no, don't care about that. No.
I go fucking crazy when I hear that.
Who cares what television channel?
We are exactly
yeah.
like we are in a world of data and sports science, and you're telling me who broadcasts the games and the potential ego blow or stroke? No fucking way.
No. Well, especially for a Finn, I don't think that's on their mind. The momentum question you asked though is this: if he's not in versus Chicago and they throw up a stinker versus Chicago, that's the psychology of the players now going into the game versus Nashville. So his momentum individually may not be lost, but the team's momentum playing in front of him.
And I think that's a fair answer, Blake. Now, here's the other thing that we haven't discussed in this Doside Doe. Of course, Shilovs has a lot of success against the Nashville Predators, right? Beat them in a playoff series.
So there's that mojo too. Yep.
So you'd go Shilovs against Nashville and Lankinen against Chicago.
I'm hedging towards that. Okay. Again, a drastic result tonight would change things perhaps, but yes.
I'm hedging the other way.
Okay.
Just because you're in a situation here of 5 games and 7 nights. He's playing the first 2. You know he's playing the Rangers game on Tuesday. So I would give him the extra day's rest here in the middle of that stretch. Play Shilovs against Chicago. I know Nashville is struggling, but I think they're a better team than the Blackhawks. So I perceive the Blackhawks as the easier opponent, and it gets me an extra day's rest for Lankinen, and then I'm back in the routine of him playing every second day for the remainder of the homestand, Nashville and the Rangers.
Yeah, I'll say the extra day of rest going into the toughest opponent in the stretch, which is the Rangers. That'll be my theory there.
Okay. Yeah. Just to be different.
Well,
just to be disagreeable.
Well, I'm not against that, but that's actually not. I think I've convinced myself that I'm right here. So we'll see how they.
You're not wrong. You're just not as right as me. The Blake Price classic sentence from yesteryear. You haven't uttered that one recently.
No.
That really should be your credo. Did we play the talk clip on Lekkerimäki? Yes, we did. Let's hear from Coach on Nils Hoglander, because it sounded like they had that's on me. No, that's on me, bro. No, that's on me, bro. moment this morning at Rogers Arena. Take a listen.
Yeah, I take I have to take some responsibility with that because I think I got to get him out there. I think he needs a few more minutes. Has he made some tough decisions that I have not liked without the puck? But he's a kid that I got to take responsibility. I got to coach him better. I think it's on me to get him out there more often. And he's a guy, he came up to me this morning, to be quite frankly, honestly, he goes, "Talk, I'm not playing good for you." And I told him, well, I got to get you more ice time. So I think it's a give and take. I got to get him out there tonight because I think he's going to play with Dakota tonight. And he's going to have a good player to play with that they can, work the corners against. And that's what Hoggy is. He's a buzzsaw around the net.
I love when Talkett so loves to talk. Like, the last name is perfect here.
He does love to talk.
No, he just sometimes he's going so fast and the words are coming and he gets ahead of himself.
It's a decent line. It is a chance for, if they only play 11 minutes tonight, I think there's a chance to do something in those 11 minutes. Ratu, Hoglander, and Joshua.
So this question was posed because Hoglander played 9:23, all at even strength, and only one shift in the final 12 minutes Tuesday against the Flames. I believe it was the season low.
Do you think Hoglander's played poorly? Because, he hasn't been outstanding, obviously, but I don't think he's played poorly.
Seemingly since this whole discussion started, and we're going back a couple of years and a couple of coaches now, I've seen it from time to time. I've not seen it in the measures that would have a guy playing less than 10 minutes and go from, given the goal production, play so infrequently and so quickly to demote down the lineup. I haven't seen it in that sort of measure.
No.
But I'm not the trained eye that these coaches are. And not to mention, and Frankie Corrado's been very instructive on this, sometimes we sit there and watch it and pinpoint somebody to blame when really, if everybody's playing the system correctly, it's actually somebody else who's making the mistake that forces the scapegoat into his mistake that we all see. It happened earlier this year with Pedersen was to blame, and we were all blaming somebody
Sprong,
else. It could have been Sprong.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I haven't. He certainly hasn't been terrible.
No.
And even Coach said there, have I loved every decision with the puck? No. But I think what you have here is, maybe it's a last-ditch effort, because as we discussed yesterday, I do think he's the trade piece for your top four defensemen, unless it's one of the prospects or first-rounders. But I think what you have here is another effort, perhaps the final one, from Tocchet and the coaching staff to bring Hoglander along and have him play exactly how they're hoping he plays. And if he's unable to, then it's maybe time to move along. The one thing that we've heard about Hoglander when we've talked to our friends around the league, this isn't the highest hockey IQ player. The buzzsaw style, as Tocchet called it, comes with a price, and that is sometimes you're not always making the smartest play. Sometimes you're letting that buzzsaw and that energy and those emotions get the best of you, and you find yourself out of position. Sometimes you're so head down, so driven, so singularly focused that you're missing some things around you. So, look, I think Nils Hoglander is a good hockey player. I would not be surprised to see him get on another heater here. I do think he's going to be on someone else's team for a top four defenseman by the trade deadline.
His previous stints in the doghouse have generally come because not only was he missing details, but the buzzsaw was not turned on. The energy wasn't there. I think it is. I think that part is there. That's the good news. I don't think he is as far to come back from as he has in previous stints in the doghouse, but he's got to figure that out. Before we leave the Islanders,
yes,
looking at their roster.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and this is a little bit. This is the second need. Top four defensemen.
I want to get to Steve's comment from the YouTube stream here in a second, but go ahead.
The first need, of course, is a top four defenseman.
Mm-hmm.
Second need, right shot centerman.
Third line, right shot center. Yep.
J.G. Pajot.
We talked about him last year.
59% in the faceoff circle last year. He's amongst the best in that regard.
Mm-hmm. He's got a 16-team no-trade list, so more than half the league of the 31 teams not named Islanders. I don't know whether Vancouver would be on that list or not.
$5 million cap
right
hit,
shot centerman who has had some playoff success in his career. You do have to go back a little further back, but
he's a half point per game guy, so very modest offensively. But he does a lot of the things that you'd want to get done.
Yep. It was 13 points in 19 playoff games for the Islanders in 20-21. He's been exactly a half point per game player in the playoffs for his career.
Mm-hmm.
Right shot center. Would you call him a shutdown guy?
I'd have to go further into the stats to know that for sure. But
don't love that it's $5 million next year for a player.
I don't think you have to pay the whole thing.
You think the Islanders are going to keep money?
If you can give them something decent enough, then yeah, I think
he just turned 32 this week.
Yeah. So you're out of him by the time he's 33 and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not too bad.
I looked at it last year and went, look, if the Islanders are willing to eat money or are not looking for a particularly high return just to clear him off the books, then I would be interested.
Well, it's just the extra year off to me is a way better scenario. 2.5 years, that's a lot for an older player.
Fair.
1.5 years, I think you can digest that.
Fair. I thought you were going to ask me about one of the defensemen.
Oh.
Yeah. It's okay. See him again.
Do you want to talk?
No.
Oh,
no.
okay.
Not
high priority.
Yeah, well, like Lou doesn't make a lot of trades of core guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Lou's a continuity guy.
Yes.
So you and I look at the Islanders and go, mediocre team, not a lot of upside, blah, blah, blah. And I just think Lamoriello looks at it a little differently, that, if we can get these guys together, keep them together, build chemistry, continuity, that, we'll get more out of them as a group. I mean, that was certainly the way that the Devils were managed, right?
Our favorite player of all time is with the Islanders right now. He's got a couple goals from the blue line. Dennis Cholowski.
Oh, yes. Lovely guy. Yeah. Yeah.
Drove hours to meet with us.
So we'll explain the story. He was in the BCHL. That was the big BCHL draft, right? With Jost and Fabro. And at the time, you were calling BCHL games, or we had a weekly BCHL segment. Brent Muniz from the BCHL was down at the draft. The BCHL was just planning for this, huge party of all these first-round picks. And we asked Cholowski if he would come on the show, and we told him we'd be doing it from a Buffalo hotel lobby. It was Buffalo.
Buffalo, yeah.
And we told him, hey, 11:30, whatever the time was. And so sure enough, he shows up. And we're like, hey, thanks for coming over. Appreciate it. What hotel you staying at? And he went, oh, I'm in Toronto. We're like, excuse me? And he went, yeah, I've been staying with the family in Toronto. We've been visiting, It's like, you drove from Toronto for this? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, you staying here tonight? He's like, no, I'm going back to Toronto. So the guy drove with the border, 5-6 hours round trip to do a 15-minute, 20-minute radio hit? And was quite happy and affable. Well, when kids are getting drafted, they usually are. So anyways, our favorite guy, Dennis Cholowski.
He's going to play tonight, apparently. He's on
good. Well, Barzal's not. Another lower mainlander there. Barzal not. Duclair not. Pellich not. The Islanders have some injuries. So this is a most winnable game. Blake's got a hot take about the Winnipeg Jets.
I do?
Did you tell me they're going to lose to the two Florida teams?
I said one of the two Florida
only
teams.
one. Yes. Come on. That's Luke. It's barely Luke.
I'm just saying, the hot streak ends.
Swept in Florida.
No.
Oh, come on.
I told you off the air, I said they've got Tampa and Florida coming up. They're dropping
They're
one of those
on the road, right?
Yes,
they're going
on
through.
the road. They're dropping one of those.
I think they're dropping both. I think 15-1 is too good to be true. I don't think they're that good a team. I think they're a good team, but this is getting a little much.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, because, last year when the Oilers ripped off 17-18, whatever it was, well, look at the, McDavid and Draisaitl, when they get on heaters, they can do that to other teams. With all due respect to Connor and Ehlers and Scheifele and Morrissey, like really good players, but you're not of that level. Of course, they got Hellebuck. Maybe he's the McDavid of goaltending.
What do you think the two leagues are thinking? The NHL's got a 15-1 historic Winnipeg Jets team, and the NBA has a 13-0 Cleveland team.
With a new head coach. The guy's undefeated as an NBA head coach.
This game's easy.
Yeah.
Not exactly the
That's
centers.
It's a pretty good Cleveland team. That's a balanced Cleveland team that can get scoring from a number of places.
Ask a casual fan.
I think they're going to be hard to. They're going to
ask a casual fan. Name one player on the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I don't think they get one.
Come on, Garland, Mobley.
I don't think a casual
Allen.
NBA fan gets any of those. No,
Okay.
I don't think they know that Mitchell plays there now.
Mitchell, yeah, he might be the biggest name of them all. They're going to be fun. I know Boston was fantastic last year, and a lot of people picked the Celtics to repeat. But I love the idea of a Cleveland-Boston Eastern Conference final because I think that Cavs team is a little bit more ready for primetime this year. So Blake and I were at a Grey Cup media event last night. And I got a chance to spend a little time with Ryan Rigmaiden, the BC Lions director of U.S. Scouting. First, let's back up. We had Farhan Lalji on the show early last week. Monday, I want to say. He says he's expecting an announcement from the Lions last Thursday, a week ago, with regards to the coaching matter and that he thought Rick Campbell would be staying. Thursday comes and goes with no announcement from the BC Lions. Well, now you're into Grey Cup week, and you don't want to distract from Grey Cup week and the two competing teams. And still, we have heard nothing from the BC Lions on their coaching situation, whether Rick Campbell will be back, whether any other changes are coming. Farhan also tells us that Ryan Rigmaiden is a candidate to be the general manager of the Edmonton Elks. And then had the report earlier in the week that Rigmaiden is out of the running. He will be staying with BC. I bumped into Rick Campbell yesterday at the Fan Festival, and he looked a little forlorn, but I just interpreted it as, it's a home Grey Cup. His team isn't in. In fact, his team's been done playing for 2 weeks. He's probably still a little whatever. Then I saw what Julio had to say, Caravata, with Donnie and Dolly, that Rigmaiden is going to be promoted to GM and that he's hearing Rick Campbell to Edmonton rumors. And, of course, Rick grew up partly in Edmonton, where his father, Hugh, the legend, was the head coach and executive.
Czar.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly. And Rick, of course, is a co-general manager here and has head coaching duties, has been a head coach in Ottawa where he won a Grey Cup.
And there's just flat out a need of some change. Like after the season that just went down, something needs to change for the Lions.
Here's the other thing. My understanding of Mar Doman isn't even in town or wasn't in town until last night. So Doman's been away here. And I don't know for how long, but that also makes some sense to me. I have a really good rapport with Rigmaiden. Have for years. I sometimes send him a text in the office. When they're announcing those U.S. free agents, so like January and February, I'll sometimes send him a text trying to think of the most obscure university out there. Hey, you telling me there's no prospect from the Colorado School of the Mines or
Mid-Appalachian State?
Exactly. Tech. So I've always had a fun rapport with Rigmaiden. He came to the party last night. I saw him. Sit down. I said, I understand. Congratulations are in order. He says, thank you very much. I said, tell me, you weren't interested in interviewing for the Elks GM job? And he said, no. He said, I was, but it's just not the best family fit right now. If you don't know, Ryan lives in North Carolina. He's got a daughter who's finishing up high school, close to finished high school. So I said, okay. I said, well, tell me, does your promotion with the Lions involve a new title? And he looked at me and he went, that's probably best for next week, Matt. I went, fair enough. I do think Rig Maiden is going to be the GM here. And it stands to reason to me that if you're making him the general manager, you're probably taking the co-general manager title away from Rick Campbell. And if you're doing that, are you keeping Rick Campbell as a head coach, or are you allowing Ryan Rig Maiden to choose his coach?
And Neil McAvoy?
And Neil McAvoy's the Bo Horvat of the BC Lions. He is a great organizational soldier. He has worked in a variety of capacities. So whether he's AGM, co-GM, I would suspect that Neil stays and helps out. I think, based on my knowledge, I haven't checked in on this recently, but Ryan and Neil, I think, have worked very well together for some time.
So I guess Ryan would have to move somewhere then for next year if he's the GM.
Yeah, well...
Are you saying that Edmonton and Vancouver are not the same? Is that the next
There's a little bit of that. There's a little bit of that. Yeah. But also, I would suspect that Ryan is still very much going to be a boots on the ground, sort of go out and find the talent guy.
Maybe they stay with co-GMs. There's just two different
maybe
different combo.
Sure. That's possible as well. As I said, that's possible as well. So, but I do think hanging on to Rig Maiden is key for the Lions, because there's just not a lot of qualified candidates to do what these guys, like when you're hiring for a GM in the CFL, it's a pretty short list of guys, right?
Yep.
Rare do guys work their way up, and that's what I'd be pleased for with Rig Maiden, because he has worked his way up. The G-Roy element here, I do wonder. I do think there'll be a repatriation of G-Roy Simon at some point. I'm not necessarily sure when that's going to be. So the one thing that is clear is that you're going to hear more about this next week, that the Lions are not going to announce anything, particularly if it's a coaching change, to dampen, no pun intended, their own home Grey Cup. And especially this late in the week where, the league office and all the other member clubs want the focus on the game.
3-4 more days and they can do whatever the heck they want. So that's probably when all that's going to come home to roost, I would guess.
Yeah, and look, I think Rick Campbell's done a good job here. I'm not sure he's done a great job. Because a great job would have been getting over the Winnipeg hurdle. And all the eggs were in that basket this year, and it didn't happen. And in fact, they fell a step shorter.
Hosting a playoff game would have been...
Well, he's hosted two. Yeah,
no, but this year at 5-1.
No, of course.
Hosting a playoff game should have been a tap-in.
Absolutely. Okay. Today's menu brought to you by Greta Bar, a fantastic spot to watch all the games home and away. Canucks Army viewing parties throughout the season, minutes from the arena. You stop by pregame, postgame, your steps from the stadium as well. The street food menu, the decadent Big Mac poutine, and the arcade filled with all those games. Weekly drink specials, Greta, the place to be, 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. We're going to talk to Patrick Johnston here. We're going to talk to Rob Williams. We're going to go down memory lane with Bo Horvat. We're going to talk to Dakota Joshua. We're also going to talk famous phrases in Canucks lore, because Bo had one, right? Tell you that for free. There's many other in the history of the club. Looking forward to talking to PJ and Rob Williams. Bet365 bet of the daytime, this segment brought to you by Bet365, proud partner, Harrison Price. Who you got?
I'm looking ahead to Sunday and the big Chiefs and Bills matchup. And, neither Mahomes or Allen has shot the lights out this year in terms of yards passing per game, but it's starting to come for Josh Allen. And I think this matchup will bring the best out of both of them. So we could see an aerial attack from both of them. But I've got 4 games above 250 yards passing for Allen this season, but 3 of those 4 have come in the last 4 games. 3 of those 4 have come in the last 4 games. So he's ramping up, and you get a pretty nice number there at over 250 plus 145 on Josh Allen. So I think you can do that. I think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's a bigger number than Mahomes, by the way, which is plus 130.
One of several delicious matchups in the NFL this week. More on that later in the show. Also, announce our contest winner later in the program for the Arkells tickets Friday night at Rogers Arena. Islanders are missing Barzal, Duclair, two of their better offensive players. That means the scoring load falls to others, and you know Bo Horvat is going to want to score like he did last year at Rogers Arena, and that means shots. So I'm going over 4 shots for Bo Horvat. It pays at plus 160. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code NATION when opening that account. Patrick Johnston coming up next.
I'll be honest, I don't get to many games anymore, whether it be at the arena or the stadium. Ticket availability cost, it's a bit of an issue these days. So I prefer to go where there's atmosphere and I know I can get in. Greta Bar YVR. Soak up all the atmosphere with your fellow fans and enjoy a great night with a great street food menu. I prefer the poutine. Weekly drink specials as well at Greta Bar YVR at 50 West Cordova. And we'll be having our viewing parties there all season long as well. Your pregame, your postgame, it's at Greta Bar YVR, 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin.
Some price from the historic Wall Center in this next segment brought to you by Ben Moss Jewelers. Ben Moss, proudly Canadian-owned, operated with a history dating back more than a century. 5 locations here in BC, Willowbrook and Langley, Coquitlam Center. Committed to customer satisfaction. You can check out their large selection of Canadian mined diamonds, lab-grown diamonds. They've got diamonds with payment plans to suit your needs. For more info, go to benmoss.com. Ben Moss. Shine bright. And Patrick Johnston was shining a little too bright.
His glasses were shining
for
bright.
us at Rogers Arena, where there was a heck of a glare coming off his glasses. Almost looked like some sort of superhero. X-ray vision. And so he is gone sans glasses here. And that's pretty jarring, I got to say. I don't see it very often without the glasses. They're a big part of your identity.
I guess
your
so.
brand.
Yeah, I still never think about it, but I guess so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Yes, had to position myself up here in the press box, and there's a big white. I don't know what's going on with the scoreboard. They don't have anything on the scoreboard. Usually, they have like made up score from a made up game with made up lines, and there's just a big white line around the bottom rim. And that was throwing off my glasses. So here we are.
Okay.
You can see my whole handsome face.
And all the people who are audio only, they don't give a single solitary.
No,
so we'll
exactly.
move on.
Yeah.
We'll move on.
Care. Why are we wasting time?
Let me ask you our Surrey Mitsubishi poll question here. Patrick, you spent time covering. Do you feel bad for poor Bo Horvat?
No.
So much losing, PJ.
All that losing.
Listen, I did say once Bo Horvat deserves to play so many more playoff games because every year he showed up for this team, right? Yeah. Like every year through a lot of really crappy seasons, bad decisions, bad lineups, bad line mates, bad, on and on and on. Remember when he and Ben Berchi and Brock Besser were the first line? I mean, Brock Besser is a first liner, but that was asking them to do a lot, and that was kind of a statement about Jim Benning's Canucks, and Bo Horvat lived that. Listen, he's getting paid very well. He lives in a very nice place. And, they're not winning. They're not playing great. But they made the playoffs they made the playoffs, right? Like
they did make the playoffs last year.
He has played playoff games. So
he's played 11 playoff games with the Islanders over 2 first-round exits. He has but the 5 points. Do we all remember when he went beast mode there in the bubble playoffs? 10 goals in 17 games.
The hooting and the hollering in the tunnel as he was coming off the ice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He was pumped.
Yeah, no, because we always said, he's going to be a playoff player.
Yeah. And he was in the worst circumstances. You know, I mean, the guy. You ask any guys about that experience now, and they're like, "Oh my God, I don't want to think about it again. It was horrible." And you can totally. I mean, they were in jail, but he brought it every night. And you think about those, he would pick up the puck in his own end, and you're like, he's going to go score, and then he would. And maybe there was a bit of a shinny element at times to some of the opposition, but he got it done. And then he got it done. He kept getting it done, and then they come out of the bubble, and everything's a disaster, and the ownership won't spend any money, and the team's terrible. They all got COVID. And then the things just go worse. Wow. I guess, did they go bad to worse? I guess they did, because they all got COVID again, and then the coach got fired, and on and on. So, yeah, I mean, the guy lived a lot of stuff here, and now he's in a place that's obviously has its own quirks.
Well, Lou, it's got Lou. That's the biggest quirk of all, and an aging, seemingly out of touch Lou Lamoriello. Yeah. I have visuals in my mind about Bo Horvat driving the net and just carrying people with him in that postseason.
Yes.
I love what you said, though. He was the perfect player for that scenario, because with Bo, like, it's not about the bullshit, right? Like, he was like, okay, well, yeah, exactly. So we're sequestered here in Edmonton in this bubble, and it really sucks, but guess what? We've got hockey games to play and win, and that's going to be my focus. And he was a rules-oriented guy, so that the team and his teammates let him down on several occasions, and the organization letting him down with really, really poor COVID protocol. I mean, they were amongst the worst teams in sports for that.
Well, they had the worst outbreak in North American sports, and that was not. Let's just put it this way. I mean, it's 3 years ago, but let's be clear, that was not an accident in hindsight.
No, you had guys who didn't respect the rules, and they got COVID, and the other thing. Meanwhile, you had the most rules-oriented captain there, and it was a big letdown.
Well, and a guy who wanted to do right? Like, you think about him putting his hand up when the Black Lives Matter stuff was happening in the bubble. And, I wrote a couple of stories when he put his hand up. They first started doing Every Child Matters, dealing with Indigenous issues, and him having the ability to set himself aside and try to learn more about his own priors, what he thought was how the world is, and challenging himself a little bit. And trying to take a leadership role for the community. A guy that, understood the role of the captain of the Vancouver Canucks, which has always meant more than just being the guy on the ice who talks to the ref, and you are a community spokesman, and he was that guy.
Because of the leadership he provides, do you think late in his career, with maybe 2 to 3 years left on that deal, he's one of those deadline kind of acquisitions as a 34-year-old that contributes on a cup contender?
I mean, what does he still have at that point, right? But absolutely.
We'll see.
He's going to be that kind of guy, right? Like he's not Ryan O'Reilly, right? Like, he's never going to be that guy. He's never been good enough, but he's always been good enough to be a solid second line center. Listen how much they talk about him on the power play, a power play weapon, a guy who built himself into a better player offensively. If that's still there, then absolutely, he's going to be that guy.
And maybe he actually plays more defense as he gets older, because he doesn't have to be relied upon to play offense. Well see if there's development.
I mean, that was always something he had to learn more. Like the penalty killing was never
didn't come naturally. No,
but a guy who, like, in the end, you've seen the work he put in on his skating, on his work in the slot. I mean, I remember he figured out tipping. Like, he really did figure out how to be a weapon in front of the net and how to separate himself from defenders, worked with Adam Oates to understand how teams were defending net front and where the seam was, and he found the seam. And he was very, very good at that. So in terms of learning a defensive game, I mean, he added to his offensive game. There's plenty of reason to think he can take that sort of understanding of the game and turn it into a defensive asset.
There is this troublesome little fact, though, about Bo's tenure here. Much as he tried to lead, I don't think they much followed. And was he like too much of a humorless dad for them? Like,
does anybody like the 25-year-old dad? Like, nobody likes to be dadded by a 25-year-old. So maybe that was part of it.
Too much dad in his.
let's be fair though. You have to want to be led, right? And so
fair.
That was a squad for the most part.
You can lead horses to water, right?
It was a squad that wasn't good enough. You know, I mean, Tyler Myers and I have talked about this, and he's, Tyler's never going to throw anybody under the bus. But last year, I went up to, at least once, and I said, Tyler, you remember how you used to say all these things, but you guys couldn't get it done, and now you can? And he goes, yeah. I mean, yeah.
We weren't good.
They weren't good enough.
They
simply weren't good enough. And so, where is that? I mean, you had a guy, you had a star first round draft pick constantly showing up out of shape, thinking he could just live on talent. The amount of time we invested in guys like that.
I had to tell people day in and day out that Nikolai Goldobin was the best option as a winger on the first line. And I still don't think I was wrong. He just wasn't very good himself.
I mean, Nikolai Goldobin was a great personality. Yeah. Yes, great personality. Oh, best line I ever saw him land. Dressing room. And he goes, oh, no, Jeff Patterson. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
To you, he said that?
Jeff Patterson.
But it was a joke. He was joking.
Oh, okay. All right.
Hey.
But it was because things weren't going well or whatever. I mean, he knew, for all his flaws as a player, for maybe all his maybe he worked a lot. He was very self-aware of, sort of what the criticisms were from the organization.
Right.
He just wasn't sure what he was ever going to do with it.
Yeah, no, he owned it every time. By the way, little Nicky was 78 points in 67 games last year for the KHL's Moscow Spartak. He's only 29. I'm just saying.
Oh my gosh.
Jim Benny's frothing at the mouth at his next job.
Hey, just before we leave it, think back to that era. The one thing that we did have, we had dads. We had Premier Horgan, right, who was the dad premier, and we had Bo Horvat, Canucks captain.
And Tim Horvat, the literal dad.
And we loved Tim. God, did we love Tim.
It's sort of a game like the Flames game. Like, there's a lot of reasons why the visitors should not win the game, but you can't take it lightly, and you got to dot the I's and cross the T's. And the Canucks took 10, 15 minutes before they started dotting I's and crossing T's versus Calgary. Let's see how long they wait versus this team, which is, again, it's just a should win. Like, this should not trouble the Vancouver Canucks on home ice tonight.
Well, I think of the contrast between Tuesday's game and the home opener, right? The Canucks didn't let the Flames back in. Once they seized control of the game, they didn't let the Flames back into the game. And that's what happened on opening night. And I mean, it's a sign of progress. We're whatever percent, what are we, 16% of the way into the season or whatever it is. Like we have seen progress from this team. There's still work to go, and we know there's still things to add. And I think, listen, everyone's talking about Marcus Pettersson. I think they're still going to swing higher than Marcus Pettersson. I think that's not the guy necessarily really actually are looking at. It's and there's no rush. They're doing well. Like, they're winning, right? There's no pressure right now on them to make a move. If they weren't playing well or if they weren't winning, there would be more noise. There's just no noise, and there's it's funny when you think of those terms because they shouldn't be thinking about it, but they react to what they have to pay attention to what people are screaming. You don't want people screaming at you because first of all, it's annoying. You don't want to be accused of making moves based on people screaming at you either. So they're doing well. They're doing enough. They obviously need to pick up their socks against better teams like the Oilers.
Do you think the incremental accrual of cap space from the send downs to Abbotsford, do you think it's for a nebulous, ambiguous pickup down the road, or do you think they've actually uttered the sentence in the front office of let's do this so we have cap space to get a top four defenseman? Do you think it's explicit as that?
I do think so. Yeah. I mean, I mean, obviously you always have lists, right? Like, the one that people have been talking about, Rasmus Anderson, but like, what about, I don't know, Mackenzie Weir? Like, he's obviously on a big ticket. I don't know if that's really quite how you structure, but like, that's what you need to think about. What could we do if this, right? If we do this, what can we do then? And so the list is undoubtedly a long one. And as I said, there's no rush. They can see how the market plays out. And, but yeah, the you just look at what they did in the summer. I always thought there was a missing move. I just said I don't understand quite what's going on here, and we can see how they're playing. Right, the puck does not move as well when not Hughes and Hronek are on the ice. They need a guy who can help them move the puck on the second pairing anyway. I mean, Brandstrom's helping with that on the third pairing, but they need a guy that can help do that on the second pairing. And it's not, I don't think, a terribly big secret what I think they're going to try to do here.
Dakota Joshua, how do you think they'll handle him in his return? Needless to say, this isn't just from...
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's beyond the health aspect. I mean, this is a guy who didn't have training camp. I think I've said this just about every week. That has been the big part of this story. And same with Thatcher Demko, is getting the feet moving, getting the blood pumping, but getting it blood pumping in a regular way and then getting it at something that's close to what you need for a game. So, it sounds like he's going to stay with Ratu on the fourth line, and that's where you make sense for him to start. Like, you get him some ice time, you get him moving, get him out there, and then you see where things go from there.
He was a primary penalty killer for them last year. But actually, they're top 10 in the league in penalty killing, going at 83.7%.
Yeah.
And Pius Suter and Teddy Bluger have been the most used guys there. Although when you get down to the second unit, JT Miller is playing. Bottom line is, do you want to tax Miller and Pettersson on your penalty kill?
Well, right now, Miller and Pettersson are out there to win draws. I mean,
right.
The 2-minute penalty kill the other night, I asked Talkett about that post game, and he said, that screwed up our comeback, crushed that 2-minute drill that those two had to do. I mean, they were both out within a couple shifts, but that was taxing, right? That had a long-term consequence at that point of the game. But the plan had been for them to win the face-off, essentially get out. And Pettersson's having a strong defensive season. The guy who's going to go out there, win a puck battle, clear the puck, right? They couldn't do it. So that's why they're in there. But yes, you're going to get Dakota Joshua in there because he's in your rotation, right? Like, they like getting 3-4 sets of forwards out over the 2-minute spell. And Joshua is a very, very good penalty killer. Is part of the reason why they brought him here in the first place. And so having him back will just add further to the arsenal of penalty killers that they have.
We will play this game with Rob Williams coming up. Off the top of your head, and if you can't think of any, we can edify you here. Canuck-related quotes that stand out over the years. Tell you that for free. How high up your list is it? Is it like the ultimate quote related to the Vancouver Canucks that sticks with you to this day?
I mean, obviously, I literally say it is what it is almost every day. A team like that.
I hate that phrase. It's so big.
Oh,
it's
I know.
So terrible. It's so terrible.
But it was
like if you ever wrote it to oh my God, if you ever presented that to an editor, it is what it is. What the fuck are you talking about? Tell me.
What is it? What are you talking about?
Yeah. So it is what it is.
A team like that. I mean, those are the two that spring to mind. We choked.
There, you're pretty good.
Yeah,
he's ticking them off. You're missing.
What am I missing?
From a goalie.
You're missing a really big one from a goalie.
Number one.
Well, some would call it number one.
Oh, yeah. My contract sucks.
Yeah, attaboy.
I feel like we're on a game show.
Yeah, take that, Rob Williams. Take door number 2, please.
Yeah, you go out and win the turd tonight.
I want the Hawaiian vacation.
Yeah, that's right.
This fabulous bedroom suite.
He won the turd, and he's winning the Hawaiian vacation. Patrick Johnston of the Province and Post Media Canucks beat reporter. You're a beauty. Love you much. Put the glasses back on. It's time for you to glare.
All right, I'll go watch hockey.
Yeah.
It's happy hour on Sekeres and Price. Today's beer of the day from Yellow Dog, the High Five Hazy IPA.
There's some price from the historic Wall Center.
And my goodness, what a deluge we just had. And there's more coming. It's La Nina this year. And you know what La Nina means? And good on the fine folks at White Spot for seeing this coming. If we're going to be under atmospheric river upon atmospheric river, we need some comfort. So the culinary team at White Spot said, we need to go deeper on the comfort foods. They've got the comfort menu now at White Spot. Mini Yorkies, braised beef burger, pot roast, chicken pot pie. You know, the classics. You want them? You get them at White Spot. Visit your local White Spot today.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
You know what La Nina means? You're not familiar? Chris Farley Saturday Night Live sketch from years ago.
I don't remember that.
What does La Nina mean? It means the Nina.
I apologize. I did not know I was
It was right
missing
there.
the joke.
Yesterday I missed a line that was, right
the
between the eyes.
drone segue, yes.
Yeah, exactly. I had a drone segue that I totally botched yesterday. Here's Rob Williams from the Daily Hive and the Offside Sports Vertical.
Williams.
Yeah, Rob Williams. And we saw Rob at the Grey Cup Media Party. Did you have fun last night?
Yeah, it was a great time. Good to see all the people in the industry at the event. I had a lot of fun.
You're not leaning into the Rob the hockey guy, but I see you at Whitecaps matches. See you are Rob the sports guy. I think you need to change the handle.
I had an old boss years ago that said, "Oh, maybe you should change your handle to Rob the sports guy." I was like, "No, we're not doing it." No, great.
Wow.
I'm fully immersed in Grey Cup stuff this week, guys. We've been covering a lot of stuff about the festival and all the things that are happening around the convention center. And I remember going to it 10 years ago. That was before I was in media, so this is a lot of fun covering my first Grey Cup here.
Yeah, no, I have noticed you and all your reporters out there. In fact, the Daily Hive has been a terrific site for me as I sit there and I navigate what's going on this week at Grey Cup and what I want to get to. So keep up the great work there yourself, Kenneth, Noah, and the fantastic reporters at the Daily Hive. And good for you for owning your brand, Rob. Don't let the man come down and tell you who you are and who you aren't. Rob the hockey guy on X. And
we were
on
allowed
Blue.
to talk about, it was very strict rules from Farhan Lalji yesterday, though. I think he told everyone that came in, he's like, no hockey talk tonight. No.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did not realize that.
Yeah.
Did not get that scolding. Here's the other thing about last night. There are actually 140 to 150 Canadian sports media people that you can put in a room here in 2024.
I was shocked by that too.
Like when I walked in and Naylor and Farhan said, "Yeah, we're gonna our capacity like 140, 150. We're gonna be right there at capacity." I'm like, "You've got 140 sports media people in this country? Wow."
Yeah, I
thought the ranks would be a little thinner.
I wasn't sure if I was going to walk in. It was just like three guys from Winnipeg and somebody in Toronto. No, it was good. It was a great showing for sure.
Yeah, and the festival looked busy last night too on a drizzly evening. So off to a good start at the 111th Grey Cup. Okay, answer me the poll question. Do you feel bad for Bo Horvat?
No, I mean, no. I mean, what do we feel bad for, right? Like that he's in a losing situation. He's not in like an amazing situation. I think it's one thing he got traded and now, he went through all the lean years in Vancouver and now he's kind of missing the good part. I guess in some ways you feel bad for that, but nobody held a gun up to his head to sign a long-term on Long Island. I think a lot of people saw that situation and went, I don't know if they're, really set up for success, with the Islanders. And he signed long-term. I would have thought that he'd be a little bit more hesitant to sign the big deal, with a organization that didn't have more of a guarantee to win, all of the losing that he's done in his career.
Yeah, I was surprised by that too, because even a part of my brain was like, could you repatriate Bo? And then I went back because at $8.5 million, I don't mind that for a couple of years. But then I looked at, he's signed there till he's 36 years of age, and you can't be signing up for that for Bo Horvat.
I mean, you never know, right? Like Trevor Linden came home, and I do think that there could be a world where they bring him back, but. Yeah, I mean, it's I guess the part that I feel bad for Bo is some portion of the fan base that hates him because of one bad, one comment.
Yeah.
He was 10 years. He never said the wrong thing once in 10 years. And he said one thing, right after a game, and people are now kind of taking that, running with it. I think you can be happy for the trade. And I think clearly the trade has worked out well for the Canucks. They needed a defenseman. But the way people are trying to vilify him, I've never understood that. I thought that was like, okay, he worded that poorly, I think. Probably shouldn't have said it, but the I'll tell you that for free.
Classic.
Comment. But it's like, I don't think I took that more as like, geez, all the losing I've done, like now, to finally be in a situation where we're in a playoff chase, like, yeah, I'm having more fun. Like, of course he's having more fun.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was caught up in the moment, too. It was a big win for them at the time. So all of that made sense for Bo Horvat. I think the bigger problem for him is that he didn't necessarily foresee that they would have as big an ebb and flow as they've had there. And now they come into Vancouver all banged up as well. So, their season isn't sunk. They're at 500, but it doesn't look like they're exactly going to be a juggernaut, even when they do get the likes of a Matt Barzal and Anthony Duclair back.
100%. But yeah, I just don't. The day he signed that contract, I just thought, man, I don't like. You might be in another. This looks like another Vancouver situation that you just got out of,
or mildly better, but that doesn't serve him very well.
Exactly, and he's hungry to win. He wants to play meaningful hockey games in the playoffs. So, yeah.
We were going to do this as a poll question one summery day, and we may still. But I want to take you through some of the most famous quotes in Canuck history. And I want you to tell me which ones you like better or you think are more enduring and more used, if you will, by the Canucks fans, then tell you that for free. We choked.
Naslin.
Mm-hmm.
My contract sucks.
That's the all-timer, I think.
You think that one? Okay. Hey, we're just getting started here, Rob. We got a big list. Big list. Team like that.
Well, that wasn't by a Canuck.
That was kind of a phase, though. Team like that.
But it was uttered by Doughty.
Yeah. They made T-shirts for them.
Right. Thank you, Jim.
There's a media member. Yeah.
Yeah.
In a pickle.
Recent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're missing one from yesteryear.
Wind a turd.
Okay. A fun one. Yeah.
And then shout out Todd Bertuzzi. It is what it is.
That was the one I was waiting for.
I also like we ran out of time. That was a good one.
We ran out of time. I'm going to put that on the list. Thank you. So you're voting for My Contract Sucks, Rob.
I think My Contract Sucks is legendary, right?
I think My Contract Sucks and We Choked are the ones that it is what it is. Blake knows I hate that phrase.
Yes.
I once saw a reporter at a Super Bowl, John Fox, the head coach of the Carolina Panthers, asked from the floor, ballroom of people, Coach Fox, when you say it is what it is, can you tell us what it is? And he was totally befuddled.
Well, the beauty of that one was he kind of went Marshawn Lynch in the infamous moment of that phrase, in that he answered like 2 to 3 questions in a row with "It is what it is." Mm-hmm. He basically gave it the I'm just here so I don't get fined response.
Sure.
And so that's what made it more infamous.
So you would vote for "It is what it is"?
I'll put contract sucks first, but it is what it is.
My contract sucks is next.
Yeah.
Is next level. Here's the thing for Horvat, 3/4 of a point per game since he started with the New York Islanders. Do you at very least wish he can we all agree that we hope he finds some team success somewhere down the line here? That he deserves. Rob, he'll be 30 in April. Like he used to be the baby Canuck, the baby, the young up and coming guy. He'll be 30 in April.
Oh yeah, I mean, Horvat, I thought was he was he was a great Canuck on bad teams. I think he did everything he could, for this team throughout his decade in Vancouver. Was he a perfect player? No, he wasn't as good defensively as a lot of people would have liked. They sure miss him on the power play, right? Like they never really replaced him in that bumper spot. He was such a good trigger man, working with Miller on the power play. But I think there's maybe a bit of a lesson in there. Like sometimes you have to make a really tough decision and trade away a player you don't want to trade away to really get your team to the next level. And you weren't going to get a player like Hronek. If, they get him sort of it wasn't
indirectly,
indirectly there. But you weren't going to get a player like Hronek unless you gave up a player like Horvat. And I think they made a really tough decision there, and it's paid off, right? Sometimes you need to gamble, and Patrick Allvin hasn't been shy to pull the trigger, certainly. And I think that's a big reason why the Canucks have had this big turnaround. A lot of smart moves. That one was probably the biggest, but he's made a lot of smaller moves along the way in the last couple of years, and it's really turned the franchise around.
I always bring up Colorado. Matt Duchene, Nazem Kadri, they've traded away some big players to build the team that they are in Colorado. You got to make those tough decisions. Lastly, Ryan Kesler spent a lot of time in Vancouver here in the last couple of weeks. And which do you think is more awkward, the fact that they haven't chosen to honor Kesler yet, or the fact that he's now seemingly appealing for an honor from the Vancouver Canucks?
I thought you were going to say he spent a lot of time on the Jumbotron, because
that's the best part of it. Yeah,
they showed him like 3 separate times on there, and it looked like he was having a good time. He was at the Roxy as well. He's answering questions about it. He hasn't been shy to answer questions about, like, would you like to be honored? Of course he would. It'll be interesting to see what happens, though. I think a lot of people thought Roberto Luongo might have his jersey retired. Bit of a messy breakup there, and he ends up in the Ring of Honor instead. I think Kesler, he's not a jersey retirement guy.
Candidate, no.
But if he had a smoother, if not for the breakup, the messy breakup where he, basically forces the Canucks' hand and demands out of town, he's a shoo-in for Ring of Honor, of course. But now the question is, okay, how much do you punish him for that? Like, is this a lifetime sentence where he never gets honored again? For me, he's apologized multiple times. He's saying now he regrets the way that it ended in Vancouver. For me, he's apologized, and Canucks fans absolutely adore him. I mean, remember the Sedin jersey retirement night, the loud ovation that Kesler got that night. That we're coming up on almost 5 years, from that night. Kesler wasn't sure what kind of reception he was going to get that night. He knows what kind of reception he's going to get now. Fans chanting his name in Rogers Arena. For me, things like Ring of Honor, it's for the fans, right? And the fans have spoken. They've forgiven Ryan Kesler. I think it's time for the team to do so as well. I would put him in the Ring of Honor, but at the very least, give him the Bieksa and Edler treatment. But to me, Kesler is one of the best players in franchise history, and was around for some very big moments. It's time to honor him.
Yep. Rob, we ran out of time.
It is what it is.
We live day by day. Sometimes we get in a pickle, and I'll tell you that for free, and it is what it is. So thank you, Rob. And we'll catch up.
Got them all in there.
My contract doesn't suck. So
your contract with us sucks. That much I know. Be well, buddy.
See ya.
Thanks, guys.
Happy hour on Sekeres and Price. Today's beer of the day, Yellow Dog Squirrel Chaser Hazy Pale Ale. Sekeres and Price from the Historic Wall Center. You can text us 778-402-9680. Email live at sekeresandprice.com. All of it to the Great Clips inbox. Great Clips.
It's going to be great.
Congratulations to Colin May. Colin, you are our contest winner for the Arkells tickets Friday at Rogers Arena. Colin was on Instagram. He follows Sekeres and Price. Noted that his favorite Arkells song was Book Club and that his favorite Vancouver Canuck, he says, I'm a West Coast Express era kid, Marcus Naslund. Congratulations, Colin. Hope you have a blast at the concert. The Arkells in Kelowna tonight, Vancouver tomorrow, Victoria on Saturday. A big thank you to Farhan Lalji and Dave Naylor of TSN. Blake and I attended the Grey Cup media party last night down at Mahoney and Sons.
It was bumping
on the waterfront. And thank you to the Mahoney brothers for having us there and hosting as venue. Caught up with some folks. You're doing some television work this week.
I am.
Around the Grey Cup.
Yeah. Be back on the network.
Wow.
If you can believe it. Yes.
What are you doing?
4 hours of Grey Cup Saturday. So at the Grey Cup Festival, which, by the way, opening night of the festival last night. So we walked through the festival to get to Mahoney and Sons. It was going off on a drizzly Wednesday evening.
Honestly, I was down there earlier in the afternoon when it sort of first opened, and there were people milling about. The rain was coming down pretty good at that point. I did not have a lot of hopes for last night. And then when I showed up, 6:37, whatever,
people on the zip lines
really going. Now, it was a little better actually. The night turned out to be a whole lot better.
Totally fine, yeah.
It's too bad they postponed that drone show because I think last night would have been fine.
Yeah.
You could see across to the North Shore. It was all lit up. And, I was surprised at the number of people who were down there at Canada
It's a big deal. So if you haven't done the Grey, and I truly, I'm a bit of a Grey Cup neophyte. Like I've been around the city when we've hosted the Grey Cup, but I don't think I've ever attended the festival per se.
Real? Okay.
And I was really pleasantly surprised by what I saw. So if you haven't done it, go check it out. Even if you're not planning on attending the game, go check this out. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, Dwayne Vanneau, the Lions, and then Riley, Caitlin, and everybody involved with the festival look like they've done a fantastic job. It looks like a lot of fun inside and out down there at Canada Place. So 4 hours of Grey Cup Saturday. Will there be an essay?
There will not be an essay. No.
Come on, you grew up in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
The heartstrings?
No.
Dramatically read, set to music, sleigh bells perhaps?
Dave Naylor might write an essay. I don't know. Not me. No.
Not doing the essay?
No. Did not ask me.
Harkening back to Willard Reeves giving the footballs away, Tyrone Jones in the middle of that
Jeff
defense.
Boyd, Perry Tuttle.
There you go.
No, not going to happen. Sorry.
Trevor Kennard.
Oh.
Bob Cameron kicking with their single bar face masks. You remember the single bar face masks?
I like those two guys because I was as tall as they were by grade 4.
Here's the thing. I was talking with our friend Mike Benavides, BC Lions coach. We both spent some time with Benny last night. And he said to me, that Winnipeg team has some terrific leadership there with not just Zach Claros, but a number of veteran players. He goes, I'd be surprised if they let it happen again, meaning a Grey Cup loss. So I think the Argos may get Winnipeg's best game here. And if they do, that could be 3 Grey Cups in 5 years for the Bombers. And I think there will be some football fans here in BC who will feel really good for Adam Bighill. Poor Adam Bighill is on the 6th. He's not playing, injured in September. So he'll be a spectator to this one. And Lucky Whitehead had a lot of fans here. Was terrific with the community as a Lion. He's returning kicks there, and who knows, maybe he gets into the end zone Sunday at BC.
The only thing I'll say is that we have seen, journeyman quarterbacks and backups shine in Grey Cups before. Like we have seen that Cinderella story before in the CFL. Mm-hmm. So, You never know when it comes to the Argos.
Yeah, I hope Toronto is competitive.
Yeah.
More often than not, the Grey Cup is a really good game with a fantastic finish. I have my doubts about this one, but I'm hoping the Argos can keep it close. Because if Toronto does keep it close, then all the history of the Bombers blowing the last 2 Grey Cups in the fourth quarter comes back into the mentality and the mindset of those guys who have been there before.
Well,
and of course, there's a lot of guys who have played in both of those games.
It's funny. You get a win here if you're the Bombers, and you're starting to talk about like one of the greatest dynasties in CFL history. You lose.
Oh, no.
And you've lost more than you've won in this stretch.
It is absolutely the fulcrum game here.
Yes. Yeah. It's going to be interesting.
Football south of the border. Blake, what if I told you this was one of the greatest slates of games in NFL history?
In what sense? By what metric?
Here. This is only the 3rd time in NFL history where you've had 3 or more games on the same week between teams with 700 or better winning percentages this late in the season. Stay with me. So week 11 or later.
So a lot of mini Super Bowls going on here. Is that what you're suggesting?
It starts with Washington at Philadelphia here on Thursday Night Football and a battle for supremacy in the NFC East. Mm-hmm. Of course, Washington is back now after a long period in the desert with Dan Snyder. You have the most physical game in the sport, Baltimore at Pittsburgh.
Oh, boy.
Going off on Sunday.
And who'd have thought that we'd be talking about the Steelers being good?
Exactly. And how about Mike Tomlin? He made the call. Justin Fields was 4-2. He said, Russell Wilson is my guy, and they have won 3 in a row. The Russell Wilson comeback story is on. And then the Titanic battle, Kansas City at Buffalo. Bills have not been able to get over on Kansas City in the postseason. Bills have their best start since the K-Gun, Jim Kelly, Marv Levy 4 Super Bowls in a row era. Bills. And that crowd is going to be absolutely frothing at the mouth when they're done jumping through fiery tables in the parking lot. Bills Mafia.
I remember early in the Allen era. Well, both of them were young, I guess. It was about 6 years ago, I want to say. I was down golfing in Palm Springs. We found a great sports bar there. Me and a bunch of the guys that we went down there golfing. And I think it was their first matchup, maybe?
Wow.
And the bar was packed.
Mm-hmm.
And it was it was a legendary game between the two of them.
They have played some stunners.
Yes. I hope we can get a vintage matchup between these two
because
sides.
Really, Mahomes and Allen, it just doesn't get any better than that in terms of quarterbacking. With all due respect to Lamar Jackson and a few others, but if I'm starting a team
in terms
tomorrow,
of slinging it, it's these two.
That's right. If I'm starting a team tomorrow, it's Patrick Mahomes. If he's off the board, it's Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, you have rivalry games: Bears, Packers, Seahawks, 49ers, and Blake on Monday night. The Houston Texans have a chance to further embarrass Big Brother Dallas Cowboys at Jerry's World.
At Jerry's World.
Yeah. You could have the Texans not only winning the battle of the state, but invading their stadium and really planting a flag that they are.
Yeah, and just taking out the last foundational block and watching the whole building fall down, basically.
And with everything that went on last week, and Jerry Jones reacting like a spoiled brat when CeeDee Lamb can we close the curtain so I can see the ball fly?
Can you believe that?
Jerry's kind of losing his mind here. Like, he's always been kind of, I'll tell you what I feel and live with the consequences. But he's in his 80s now. I think he's out of F's to give, and he's starting to say some things that makes you wonder
the sharpness
about about his mental.
Have you uttered your hot take on the show yet?
Which one?
Coaching hot take for Cowboys?
Well, I think it's either going to be Dion or Bill Belichick. Yeah. Dion, because, of course, former Cowboy, pride in the star.
Sizzle, spotlight,
all of those things.
Does Bill want that job?
Or Belichick, because, well, here's the thing with Belichick. I'm not sure he's going to have much of a choice. Remember, Atlanta and other teams passed him over, thinking he's done. He's yesterday's man. That's why you're getting this charm offensive Bill Belichick is because the narrative coming out of New England that he's just a dour, surly guy. And
he wants back in, though, at 72?
To work with. I think so.
Yeah, okay.
Coach is coach.
I think it's a pretty good take. I think those...
And Jerry's going to have to make a splash, because here's the other thing. This may very well be Jerry's last coaching hire, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, what state is he going to be in when it's time to pass judgment on this coach? Provided it's going to be 2 to 3 years.
He's probably going to get robotic parts. He'll
be bionic.
Yeah, yes. He will. He'll literally be the head in a glass jar on top of a bionic body.
He'll get cryogenically frozen, and Stephen Jones will walk into his chamber and ask for advice.
Yes.
While imparting his business running the club.
Possible.
Then there's this story that we've been tracking for a couple of months now. And oh boy, Hurricane Helene may not just have cost Tropicana Field its roof. It may cost its primary tenant a new stadium. Here's the story from out of Tampa Bay, where Tropicana Field was assessed. It is a $55 million renovation required to fix the roof of the facility, and it would not be ready until the 2026 Major League Baseball season.
Got to wait a year, spend 55 schmil. But at least you got a renovated stadium, right, Matt?
Right. So the Rays are planning to build and open a new stadium for 2020. And so the conundrum...
2028.
Sorry, 2028.
Yeah.
So the conundrum is, we're going to sink $55 million into this stadium to only have to play in it for 2 years before we go to greener pastures. Well, the Rays were looking at spring training sites in their neighborhood, the Blue Jay site in Dunedin, the Philly site in Clearwater. But today comes word from the Tampa Bay Times that they're going to play at Steinbrenner Stadium in Tampa. It's across from the football stadium where the Buccaneers play. It has the largest capacity, 11,000 seats. It's got 13 suites. It's got club areas, social spaces. It's got cabana seating. So they think it's the best stadium. Major League Baseball partnered with them here and basically held their hand through this process and decided on Steinbrenner Field in Tampa. Well, that has not gone over well with county commissioners in Pinellas County on the other side of the bay.
Why do they care?
Well, because they're helping finance this new stadium. They wanted the Rays to play in Dunedin or Clearwater because that's in their county. Listen, it's a $1.3 billion stadium build, and council there still has to vote against on bonds needed to finance this facility. One council member. I'm not going to say you play in Dunedin or you play in Clearwater, and I'm a yes. But if they play in Hillsborough County, I'm a no. So, they can do the math how they want to do the math. So they've already lost a vote and may lose more from this council by making this decision to go and play in a different county across the bay.
Do you know what the seating difference is between the smaller facilities there in their county versus the Yankees facility?
I can get that for you.
We can put it on Easy Nose for tomorrow. But
yes, we will.
But you have to play the game, right? And if it is, if it is an incremental difference, if we're talking about 1,000 extra seats or something like that, then I think you swallow the pill and you go where the politics tells you to go. But if we're talking about
several thousand
and just amenity-wise way different, then my God, what do you do?
Well, and there's a subtext here in that Tropicana Field is not an easy place to get to for a lot of the population in the Tampa Bay area.
Which is why it's had terrible attendance from the
It's
get-go.
one of the reasons why there's been terrible
And it's a terrible building.
It was a terrible facility as well. Blake, you're now, and it's not like the baseball stadium is in a great area either.
The new one coming, you mean?
Well, the one they're going to, Steinbrenner Field.
Yeah.
Like, it's on a parkway that works fine for NFL games. People come, people, tailgate, people leave. So the question here is going to be, if folks on that side of the bay in Tampa fill up that stadium and they get the realization, man, we're about to build a $1.3 billion ballpark.
Far from here.
Yeah. It's kind of like the Scottsdale Coyotes thing, right?
Yeah.
Where everyone's like, oh, if they only put the rink in Scottsdale, people would go. Anyways, a reminder here. In fact, we haven't mentioned this yet. Shame on us. It's the 6th annual Botchford Project. You may know that the Botchford Project honors the legacy of our late colleague Jason Botchford, but also provides a day covering the Canucks for young aspiring journalists. The applications are open until November 29th at noon. Go to media.canucks.com. Of course, JPAT had a big hand in creating the Botchford Project alongside Catherine Botchford and the good folks at The Athletic. Showed out saw Thomas Drance last night.
Yeah.
At the party. Is Elias Pettersson back? That was the Surrey Mitsubishi poll question from Wednesday, Blake. What did the people say?
People said yes.
Percentage?
64.
68. Pretty good. Robert, yes-ish. The G-Man, I voted yes. He looks like he wants to again skating harder, beating people one-on-one. Dom, are we missing the obvious answer to his slump here? That Petey arrived to camp out of shape, probably due to taking it easy to recover in the offseason? He did talk about how the knee tendonitis affected his training in the offseason.
It's possible. It's possible.
It's a possibility. Not bad, Dom. Sean, he's playing better lately. Players go through ups and downs. I don't think either of these answers are true. Yeah, fair quibble.
So that's just saying that this is just the ebbs and flows of a season?
No, correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
It's a bit more
he refuses to believe that Petey is back because he refuses to believe that Petey went away.
Okay.
Errors and omissions from yesterday's program. Boy, did we get a lot of numbers wrong in the Gilman segment. And actually, Lawrence himself, too. And
yes.
He's not... he had Lekkerimäki at 23. He's 20.
He had him confused with Baines, I think. Baines 23.
Yeah. He had him at -6. He's -6 over the 2 years in the AHL, but he was -8 this year. And then you wondered about a 15-win Washington team back in the day.
If only.
If only, yes. You were referencing the worst team in NHL history, the 74-75 Washington Capitals, who won not 15, but half. 8.
Yeah.
So 8, 67, and 5.
So even the Canucks have already matched them on the season.
And believe it or not, that's not the record for losses, because you may remember when we were in the 84 game season, the Senators had a 10-70 season. 70 losses. You just look at it and you're like, how? 70? Imagine walking into a losing dressing room, Blake, 70 times over the course of 6 months.
The Winnipeg Jets have more wins this season than 14 teams in NHL history had for their entire seasons.
Again, I'm still ABV. I don't like what they did with the Vegas Golden Knights, but that is still superior to what they used to do to expansion teams in the NHL. 10-70, 8, 67, and 5. You're losing 8 to 9 games for every game you win. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you connecting, spending some time with us. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Follow on social. That's X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. Live on many of those platforms.
You forgot the new one.
Blue Sky. We're on Blue Sky.
Just started on Blue Sky.
Just started. Come on over. Everybody's in the pool. Yeah. Water's warm. Get us on Blue Sky as well. Oh, my God. That's a big list now.
Yeah, it is.
And, of course, support the community sponsors you hear us talking about. Keep it local. Hey, everybody. If you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres and Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.